I always think the biggest mistake I made with carving was not starting early enough. So if you're keen, get your chisels out and let's do a little project. A few years ago I made a carved trivet for a magazine article. I really enjoyed making it. It's got these little feet on it. I wasn't sure how practical it would be, being carved and being made out of lime as well. I was worried it might be a little bit soft. But actually, over the few years that we've been using it, it's been an ace. It's been a really nice kind of focal point that you can have on the table before you bring your food out. And just kind of looks nice, have lots of beautiful things in your house. So it made me think I'd like to do a bigger one. We've got lots of big trays, and I saw my wife struggling with 2 trays the other day, and I thought, yeah, let's have a bigger trivet. So this one, I'm going to make it out of this big piece of lime here. It's not going to be that big. It's only going to be probably just twice the size of this one. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it as a pierced carving. So I'm going to do it on in my head. At the moment I'm thinking it'll be lots of interlocking leaves, maybe a few flowers with some holes going through, and I'm going to route out the back, shallow it up a bit so it doesn't feel quite so thick. So we're going to see how we do that really. So let's get this piece of wood. I'm going to dimension myself a piece of wood, plane it up on the planer and see what we're working with. So I'm going to cut off the bits that split on the end, split a bit there. Looks like there is a knot there. I think we just might have to just roll with the punches on that one really and just go with it. I don't want huge amounts, but I want it big enough to go through the planer as well. So we'll cut it across there. Probably cut it across there as well. Then rip it down on the table saw. This is one of our commonly used pans. I like these enamel pans. So I'm thinking, don't need to cut actually that much off this board, but I'm going to cut it right the way across. That piece can go in the rack. It's too good to throw away. It's actually really nicely for this, 'cause it's kind of quarter sawn. Grain's all really straight. I don't know how good this will show up on camera, but you can see how patterned this wood is. I don't know how it's going to work for carving. Might be too distracting for it. Lime's normally fairly bland. I'm choosing lime over something like oak because I think that short grain kind of holds better, especially with a pierced carving. Although I'm not going to try and leave not much short grain in it. But if we had oak, short grain is very likely to break, whereas lime, it just seems to hold together better. I don't want this to be too delicate, but I want it to have like a feeling of lightness about it, or a little bit of lightness about it. So this is dimensioned down now, roughly the size I want it. It's not quite the golden ratio, but it's a rectangle. So what I'm going to do now is bevel the top edge, I think, because I quite like the bevel on the other one. Then, and maybe a really light bevel on the back edge as well. And then we're going to make ourselves a border on the inside. This is about 21mm thick. I've chamfered both sides of the board. One, just a slight bevel. One a lot deeper. That will be the top, I think. So now it's a case of drawing the board around it. It's really quite a pretty piece of wood considering it's lime. Really, really pretty. I guess it's because it's quarter sawn. So the brilliant thing about this being quarter sawn is it's not going to cup, or shouldn't cup. Especially when it's had heat applied to it, something sitting on top of it. So, makes for a better trivet. Okay, so marked it out. I've put some permanent marker on the negative spaces that I'm going to be taking out. So I'm going to drill some holes now to let my jigsaw get in there, and then we can remove those. Okay, there we go. All the negative spaces taken out. It's not too heavily weighted. Maybe that one's a little bit big, but it should be fine when it's all carved. I probably could have had a leaf attaching it in. Nothing too shorty grainy in there, but still a bit of short grain. One thing when using a jigsaw like that, and now I wasn't clamping it because it's far easier to keep moving the wood and use my other hand and my body weight as a clamp. But also, when you're using this, make sure the blade is stopped before you pull it out. It's quite an entry-level machine, a jigsaw. But if you're doing it and it's still going, it hits the wood and makes a right mess, especially on something as soft as lime, which you really wouldn't want to happen. So just bear that in mind when you're using it. Let's get some carving tools out, I reckon. Well, I reckon. Now, with any woodworking, I always think, a good percentage of it is holding the workpiece. So I want to be able to carve this. I want to be able to turn it quite easily. So what I've got is a piece of timber here, which I use quite often for different carvings. I'm going to alter these now, put that in, and then have it held by a wedge. And what that means then is I can knock the wedge out and turn it round. So it gives me the opportunity to work from both sides really easily. My clamps are going to be up here, out the way, to stop the workpiece from moving. Okay, so there I've got a nicely firm and held piece of lime, ready to do some carving. So the first thing I'm going to do is just outline anything that's crossing over or around the outside with a V-tool, just to give myself somewhere to work to, save going into this border, and then we can look at starting to attack the rest of it. So what we're going to do, once we've lined it in, then we're going to just lower any that overlap onto each other. So any that needs to be kind of like to give a sense of depth, we can lower the one. So this one could be lowered from that one, just around there. And it just gives us somewhere to work from, really. So we'll do that with the V-tool first, and then we can start lowering. Same with that one. That bit there, I could feel that the grain was kind of going slightly wrong. So look at the direction of the grain, and it was kind of juddering against it. So better to turn yourself around. And that's why it's always handy to be able to work left or right-handed when it comes to carving. Try not to have too dominant of a hand. Let's see if we can go back this way now. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's funny, when I carve, there's certain chisels that I have to get out. So I've got these ones here. So I've got number 6, about a 12mm. Number 3, about a 12mm. There's always a V-tool normally involved with relief carving. This is a 60-degree one. This is my favourite one. Just Henry Taylor ones, really quite nice. So this is the first carving I bought. So this is like a number 6, the number 6 sweep. It's about 7mm. You can see actually the fashions change because they shellacked that one and they don't anymore. And then I've got this nice big wide one, which is number 6 as well. So these are the ones that tend to come out no matter what I'm doing. There's a few others as well, like some flat chisels and stuff. But I'm going to use some of these now. I'm going to lower these leaves down because I want the leaves behind the flowers, whatever. So we can start by removing some of the bulk of the waste of this, and I'm going to lower 1/2 of these flowers to kind of slope them in. So we can we could use a mallet for this actually. Obviously, we don't want to go below where we V-carved it, so we could use the number 3 down there. Making sure. What we don't want to be doing is lifting any grain, especially at this stage. Oh, it's all fixable, but right, so I'm getting somewhere now with the detail. It's starting to look like some flowers. Doesn't look too bad. Let me take this out. Oh, it looks all right. So what I want to do now is kind of lighten up the kind of undercutting now. So I've got to undercut all these. I haven't put the detail on the leaves yet, which I'll do in a minute. So probably put the detail on the leaves. Then I'm going to undercut it from this side so far, and then when I can see where it is, I can then undercut it from the back as well. That's my thinking anyway. Obviously, you know, this isn't as strong as a solid piece of wood, so we've got to be a little bit careful with what we take out. We don't want this to be weak, so we're going to leave more in than not. So there's a few bits I've undercut already. It's about 15, probably about 15 degrees, you can see there. Started to undercut that. So it doesn't have to be huge amounts, but just enough to give the kind of illusion of everything overlapping and looking like it's some flowers and not some big block of wood. So let's do the leaves, finish them off. So there we go, I finished it. Quite happy with it. Okay, so I've left the flowers really quite textured, which I think kind of gives it a nice feel to it. The outside's nice and smooth. I did go around with the V-tool on the back just to kind of define the border. But you can see, you know, I've not worried too much about the back. I need to sand that off now and give it a coat of oil. Bit of a minefield with finishing things, especially with heat resistant finishes. So I just go for kind of a saturation oil. I think the last one I did, I used raw linseed oil. This one, I've got some tung oil. I'm going to use that. I quite like tung oil on hardwoods. I think it goes in quite nicely. It gives a nice finish. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to probably keep tickling away at this for a little bit longer. Keep seeing little bits. I'm like, ooh, should alter that. But yeah, I think that looks all right as a thing to put your pans on. It's quite nice, a bit different. Yeah, let's get some oil on it. Okay, this was a really fun project to build. I really enjoyed making this. Didn't take that long. Probably, I don't know, probably about 5 hours worth of carving, I suppose, when you add it up. Plus prepping the timber and things, so not too bad. Yeah, I'm quite pleased with it. Looks quite nice. I like the undercutting, not too heavy. So from above, and when you sat down, it still looks light enough to be a delicate carving, but it's solid, you know, so we're going to be putting pots and pans on this. Still pretty solid. You know, a good project to make with a little bit of timber. Nice way to practice my carving and to practice some flowers. Yeah, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and thanks for watching.